Hello, Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fire Force Chapter 259. When we last left our heroes, we focused back around to Arthur and Vulcan as they came back to the Company 8 Cathedral for Arthur's Great Trial, which turned out to be fighting the dragon final boss of a game of Dragon Quest. Chin. You know what I mean. Anyway, after they struggled with it, Vulcan came up with the idea to use like stat buffs on their character, which tied into Pon's fight with Hague. Sorry, I'm very tired right now. I'm running on like 10% energy, so you'll pardon me if I start to stumble during the video. And so Pon was able to beat Hague with his stat buffs, much like Arthur and Vulcan were able to beat the mid-boss, I think, actually, of their game. And so Arthur and Vulcan continued on with their, let's call it a side quest. That's the term we'll use. So let's jump right on into Chapter 259, Oh Friend of Mine. MangaDex is still down. We are on the Pusu Pusu Scans website. There'll be a link in the description, as always. Anyway, we open back with Vulcan and Arthur still playing Dragon Quest. In order to defeat the dragon, Arthur is playing a game. What enemy will appear next? And all of a sudden, Arthur starts to sweat, like heart beating like crazy, and he turns to Vulcan. Vulcan? Yeah? And we see even Vulcan starting to sweat. And I think this is Vulcan's line here. That friend we made in the first village turned out to be an enemy. And so continuing on the theme that last chapter brought up of Dragon Quest mirroring the doppelganger fights in the real world, we then cut back to the Rekka fight. As Vulcan says, this is a joke. We gotta fight our closest friend now? And then we come back to the fight with Rekka, as Karim is finally accepting here, that Rekka has always been evil. He was never turned. All that drama going on with Karim back in 257. Normally, I would actually have a little bit of a refresh myself, read the past couple of chapters before I did this video. But MangaDex is down, so I'm going much more on memory than I usually do. Anyway, Karim looks at Rekka, and Rekka's just still all grins. So glad to see you again, Karim. You too, Hoyan. I will say though, this line here of Rekka feels like it's at the beginning of their encounter, and not after all the conversation they had back in 257. But anyway, Arthur looks down at his controller. Drat! I cannot muster the courage to press fight. And speaking of not mustering the courage, we come back to the Rekka fight again. And Karim tells Rekka, I don't want to hurt you. Please just return to Adolla like the shadow you are. And Rekka here actually reminding us that this is not some back in the past at the beginning of their encounter thing, like that first line implied. He's directly calling back to what happened in 257. Didn't I tell you not to care about that tiny detail? I sure don't. And Hoyan tells Karim, look at his chest. That can't possibly be Rekka. The Rekka we knew died on that day. Again, that feels like an early part of the encounter line. In fact, I think Hoyan said almost the exact same thing back in 257. So I'm kind of confused here. Anyway, Rekka looks down at his hole. When this hole opened up in my chest, I felt like I'd been betrayed by my friends. That felt even colder than the ice you froze me in. This hole in my heart. It's a hole in the heart of our friendship. I mean, it wasn't them who shot you, Rekka. That was all Arrow. And I mean, I guess Arrow is technically on their side now. Not technically, is on their side now. So, maybe you can blame it on them, but that's still a stretch. It was your guys that killed you. But anyway, Karim is kind of stunned at Rekka's words there. And then Rekka kind of pushes all that aside, but that's beside the point. I want to revel in despair with the two of you. I want to end this world with you. I was selected at the orphanage by Sister Sumire to help turn this planet into another sun. I was born to create that supreme despair. And Rekka tries to call him off again. It's not too late, Rekka. You still have time to open your eyes to the truth. And Rekka readies some flame in his fist. My eyes have been open this whole time. My very soul was fully open to Adolla. And then Hoyan says, Karim, this isn't my fight to take part in. And I have no idea what he means by that. Like, they were a trio. This isn't just Karim's fight, right? Like, I seem to recall this part of the story. The original Company 1 arc being pretty rushed in the anime. So I haven't read it in manga form since, like, 2015. So I might just be misremembering something slightly. But I'm pretty sure that, like, it wasn't, like, Karim and Rekka and then Hoyan as, like, a hanger-on. Like, the three of them were, like, a unit. I'm pretty sure I'm not misremembering anything with that. But anyway, Hoyan says, if you don't make a move soon, I can't say what could happen next. Or maybe it's just more like, with one arm, Hoyan is just, like, not strong enough? Is that what he's saying? I honestly don't know. I don't know. Anyway, Rekka comes right at them. Say ya! And, like, blasts some fire between Karim and Hoyan. You've both become nothing but cowardly. Say, because of that, I've arrived. Ya! You get it? Say, you get it? Ya! Keep at it. Say, go for it. Ya! Keep at it. Go for it. And he's just, all through this, just pummeling bursts of flame at them. Nonstop. I like this, like, panel that, there aren't page numbers on the Pusa Pusa Scan site, so I'm not sure what page I'm on. But it looks like it's one panel, but I'm pretty sure it's two. Oh no, actually, I think it is one. It looked like there was a gap between the top part of Rekka's torso and the bottom of it, but it's just the sheer, like, force of his fists are leaving after images, leaving just, like, how much strength Rekka has. Keep at it. Go for it. And Hoyan tells Karim, we can't escape from this. And Karim is still silent. Unable to really, do anything against his former best friend. That hole in Rekka's chest must be a representation of Karim's guilt. It's a hole in Karim's own heart. So here's a weird thing here. Because I'm pretty sure this is Hoyan talking to Karim. So why not just say your guilt? I mean, I know Japanese has some weird things with pronouns and antecedents that I'm not familiar enough with the language to know. So I'm not quite sure if that means anything in particular, or if, I don't know. Anyway, if you can't fill in that hole with your resolve, we won't be able to move forward. Anyway, that's a very literalization of the metaphor. Which is alright, I guess. Anyway, it's time to come back to Dragon Quest. As Arthur and Vulcan are still kind of struggling to muster up the nerve to go up against the friend character, to mirror with the Rekka scene, as Arthur asks, is it truly permissible to use violence? And Vulcan, here playing the Hoyan role, if you don't beat him, we can't move forward. It's a chance for the player to level up. There's no way to get around him. And then Arthur asks, but isn't he our friend? So here's the thing I just kind of thought of. Going back to that Hoyan line that gave me trouble, that this isn't my fight to take part in. So given that on the page we just read, Arthur is the one who has to fight, and Vulcan can't, based on the rules of a video game. Is the reason that Hoyan can't fight because he's playing the Vulcan role? But somehow, and I'm not awake enough to really put this into proper words, but like, because either just from a metatextual standpoint or because of the perception powers of Adolla, somehow, let's look at it as if it's a narrative thing and not a meta-narrative. But like, through the powers of Adolla, Arthur and Karim have become connected in this game metaphor. Vulcan and Hoyana become connected, and Rekka is his digital friend, fake, just like the character is. And so, through the reason Hoyan can't fight is because, like, metatextually, is because he's the Vulcan in the story. But maybe even textually, given Adolla's kind of almost metatextual powers. I don't know. I hope I'm making sense here. I think I don't know. What I'm asking is, Okubo is very clearly setting up, Arthur and Karim, Vulcan and Hoyan, Rekka and the digital friend. But is that not just metatextual? Is it also canonical in the narrative? Is what I'm asking. That's what I'm kind of wondering. I'm not sure. Anyway, moving on. We come to Flashback Land. Back with them, and I'm assuming Rekka and Karim are in training. And they're kind of sitting out in like a field. And Rekka turns to Karim. Karim, I've got a huge dream. A dream? What could it possibly be? And Rekka is still just kind of shining. I can't tell you everything about it, but it's such a big dream that it involves saving all mankind. So yeah, it's very clear just from what we know about Rekka now, that right there is talking about the Cataclysm. And Karim sort of smiles at him. I'm sure you can do that. I'll be rooting for you. And then Hoyan comes down, or shows up, which sort of does, like I sort of mentioned as an earlier explanation for Hoyan's I can't be the one to fight this fight here, sort of implies that the closest bond in this friendship was Karim and Rekka, and Hoyan was just sort of like a mutual friend, sort of added into the friend group. I don't know. We need a lot more time with them for me to really have an answer there. But anyway, Hoyan has appeared at the top of the hill. I should actually tell the story before I go any further. How long will you boys keep chatting? It's time for worship. And Rekka is still just like gleaming, and Karim is just tired. Okay. And the two of them look at each other and sort of smile as we come back to the present. And Karim seems to be ready to fight now. Rekka was always talking about that dream of his. And he readies his, I forget the technical term for it, his like ice machine. And then Karim just glares and shouts, Rekka, yeah? I'll support your dream with all I've got. Okay, I'm curious what he means by that. And Rekka just shouts, thank you, Karim. You're my best friend after all. And then Karim points the bells that kind of signal the summoning of his ice at Rekka. And Rekka looks at him. Was this how you envisioned your dream? I wouldn't exactly call this saving the world. Oh, I see what he was saying there. When Karim says, I'll support your dream, he's not talking about what Rekka was actually saying. He was just specifically saying saving all mankind was the dream. And so that's what he's going to do. He's going to save the world. And if Rekka is opposed to the dream, then Karim will fight Rekka to preserve his like forced belief in Rekka's dream. I think that's what's going on. Anyway, this is wrong. You wished to save humanity in the beginning, but when you met Sister Sumire, she deceived you. So even here, though, Karim is still kind of holding on to this thought that the Rekka he met was a good person. Which is not what Rekka is saying. When we see, I think we saw one earlier, of Rekka meeting Sumire, he was like a child, well before he ever met Karim. So it seems like Karim is not quite accepted that the Rekka he met was never a hero. And as Rekka tells him, my feelings have been consistent since the very beginning. There was no deception whatsoever. And Karim just says in the end, I guess I really can't understand people's emotions then. That's a nice sort of accepting that he doesn't know what's going on, and that he won't, but he still has to do what he has to do. Which to me seems to be a sort of final, maybe the top of this page is just one last attempt for Rekka to say, you're right, I was deceived, and now he finally has to admit that he never knew him at all. Which is a nice bit of development for Karim. Anyway, Hoyan watches as Karim just starts his ice and starts to freeze the fire. And we see, I think he's frozen some fire that I think Rekka was shooting towards him. The panel composition there is a little weird. But I think, like, we see the 4 crick sound effects that I think they're either pillars that he has, or kind of like spears that he has formed to throw at Rekka, or some flame that Rekka was throwing at him that he's frozen and stopped. But I think he's pointing towards Rekka, actually. Anyway, Karim says, no matter how big your dream is, I can't fall into despair. And yeah, there the spears then smash into Rekka. So yeah, I was right about that one. And Rekka calls out, you've got some nerve, Karim. Rekka! And we see, it looks like Rekka's skin is starting to peel. And I'm not sure if that's like a freeze effect, because it's not in colors, or kind of hard to tell. My first thought was like the Edo Tensei in Naruto. I think it's like as they were fading away, they kind of like papered like that. And given that Rekka is a resurrection, it might be in a similar vein there. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, we cut back to now that Karim has attacked, Arthur can now attack as he presses the attack button. I pressed attack, and Vulcan says, "Well, nothing you can do now but keep going." And that is also true of Karim as he stands against Rekka. We see Rekka's fire and Karim's ice. If you're treading down the wrong path, it's your friend's duty to stop you. With your future in mind, be prepared for battle. Continued in 260, a true battle of fire and ice. Okay, so first off, let's talk about this this Dragon Quest metaphor. I'm not going to go too deep because I think I went pretty deep during the chapter itself about things like Karim's development in the chapter. Also, I'm tired and want to go to bed, so I would have saved this for tomorrow, but I don't think that I have the chance to review tomorrow, and I don't want to push this off to Monday, along with One Piece on Monday. So I'm tired, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to do my best. I think I'm thinking about the Dragon Quest thing, and I think it's most likely not some kind of grand Adolla thing, connecting first Arthur to Pawn and now Arthur to Karim. But I think I would really like it if it was. Like, I think as it is now, without that, it's just a little on the nose. But if it actually were Adolla, it would kind of shift from being super on the nose to being, intentionally on the nose. It was switched to being, trying to be cool and then being too on the nose, to being an intentional on the nose in-universe thing, which is something that Okubo has really been doing with Adolla in the past year or so. So, I don't know. I also don't know if Okubo would even go out of his way to explain it. He still has not, just outright explained the real person thing. I think we all kind of get the real person thing at this point, but Okubo deliberately has not explained it, and at this point I hope he won't. And so it might be the same thing here, that like we can assume that maybe Adolla is involved somehow, because Adolla is weird like that. But also it doesn't really have to be. It's the kind of thing that that's subtextual, and you can take of it what you will. Anyway, so yeah, let's dig slightly on Karim before we call it off for the night. Because Karim is a character, I feel like, I'm trying to find the right words for this. We've seen throughout the series Karim's sort of confusion over Rekka. And I kind of like the twist that he never understands Rekka. Like you see Karim gets to see Rekka again for the first time in all of these years, or months, I guess. How long has it been in universe? Has it been a year? Probably about a year, I think. I'm trying to remember how long Shinra was a doppelganger for, and go off from there. I think, let's say a year. I think it's been about a year. Where was I going with that? Fuck. Karim spent all this time trying to understand Rekka, and you think now that Rekka has appeared, he will understand Rekka. And in the end, he doesn't. He just accepts that he has no idea how Rekka could be the person he was to Karim and still be evil. And he also accepts that he doesn't have to. And I think that's a neat twist. Much like in the game, how you have to attack the villain because they're the villain, all Karim really needs to know to fight, in the end, is that Rekka is hurting people and is already dead anyway. So this isn't even really Rekka. And so he just has to go on the attack. And I'm imagining Karim's going to have some kind of breakdown after Rekka dies, but as long as Rekka is alive, he has to do what he has to do. So yeah, I'm excited for next chapter. I want to see... I feel like... I don't think the fight with Rekka is going to go on past 261 at the absolute latest. I can see 260... I think most likely 260 will be the culmination of the fight with Rekka, and then 261 can be an aftermath. Interesting thing, though, with the Dragon Quest metaphor, which would be the last thing to talk about before I sign off for the night. But the thing with the Dragon Quest metaphor is that we've had 2 fights so far in Dragon Quest. We had the mid-boss that tied in with the pawn fight, and now the best friend fight boss that fits with the Rekka fight. But the whole point here is to fight the dragon boss. And so because the dragon boss... Like, Arthur's whole thing is he has to beat the video game dragon before he can fight the real dragon. That would mean that Rekka... the boss fight with the dragon cannot map onto Arthur's eventual fight with the dragon, with Dragon, in the same way that these past couple of fights have. And so what will happen with that? What fight will pop up to kind of fill that niche? I don't know. Anyway, chapter was a lot of fun. A lot to think about. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see how this Rekka storyline ends here, and what it does to Karim especially, going into the true battle of ice and fire. Fire and ice? Whichever one it was. Fire and ice. So, yeah, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like, or subscribe, or, do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!